I'm grateful they call me Dad. Ant McPartlin pays tribute to Anne-Marie Corbett's daughters and says he was overwhelmed when his beautiful wife walked down the aisle in gushing speech at their reception, which featured ABBA tribute band. Ant McPartlin reportedly paid tribute to his new wife Anne-Marie Corbett's two daughters during a gushing speech at their wedding reception on Saturday, as he told guests, "I'm grateful they call me Dad." Emotional Ant, 45, also told how he fought to hold it together when his new wife Anne-Marie Corbett walked down the aisle during their star-studded ceremony in Hampshire. The TV star spoke candidly about the moment, and said, "When Anne-Marie walked into the church, I had to fight to hold it together as she looked so beautiful," reports The Sun. Ant and his wife Anne-Marie, 43, tied the knot in a ceremony at St. Michael's Church in front of a star-studded congregation, including best man Declan Donnelly, Philip Schofield, Stephen Mulhern, and Alicia Dixon. According to reports during his heartfelt monologue, Ant also thanked Anne-Marie's mother for allowing him to marry her daughter, as well as honoring his own mom. The Sun reported that Anne-Marie's daughters, from her previous marriage to ex-husband Scott, were heavily involved in the ceremony and performed readings, including Richard Bach's The Bridge Across the River. Meanwhile, December told guests how Ant was the best friend a man could have, and also read aloud a prayer. Following the speeches, the wedding party danced and celebrated to ABBA tribute band Jernigan, as well as barbershop quartet, the Herringbone Cocktail Club. The couple are said to have had their first dance as man and wife to a medley by Coldplay, moments after Anne-Marie's mother Anne thanked Ant for being a great stepdad to the two girls. Ant raised his hand in elation next to his bride, who wore a £15,000 dress, as they posed outside the church for his first social media snap after getting married before departing in a black Rolls-Royce. While the church was packed with the couple's nearest and dearest, their beloved dogs, Chocolate Labrador Harley and Maltipoo pups Bumble and Milo missed out on the big day. Despite not being there in person, the dogs did featured as figurines on a 3-tier cake by baker Chris Murphy from Tuck Box Cakes. The bride looked elegant in a bespoke floor-length dress by designer Suzanne Neville that featured an off-the-shoulder design with lace detailing as she held onto her husband's hand under the floral arch. Anne-Marie wore a long veil which flowed down the back of her dress and pinned her blonde tresses back in a chic updo while opting for glowing makeup as she carried a beautiful bunch of white and purple roses. Meanwhile Dapper Ant gave a beaming smile and punched the air in delight as he left with the beauty, after arriving with December, who wore a matching black suit and lilac flower corsage. Ant and his right-hand man arrived at the ceremony at 12:40 p.m. in a Mercedes minibus, just moments after torrential rain had passed and sun shone down on the ceremony. Passing awaiting fans on the way in, Ant said, "Thanks for coming. Really nice to see you." Captioning the first Instagram photo from their big day, Ant wrote, "Mr. and Mrs. McPartlin." And fans swarmed social media to congratulate the smitten couple. The wedding was attended by a host of famous faces including Philip Schofield, Stephen Mulhern, Alicia Dixon, Christine and Frank Lampard and Dermot O'Leary. Ahead of the service the bride was driven up to the church in a black Rolls-Royce Cullinan and was helped out of the car by event manager Jason Murray, who held up her long train. Celebrity guests such as Christine and Frank, David Walliams and Dermot also looked in good spirits as they headed into the stunning church. Irish presenter Christine, 42, looked incredible in a smart red dress with cutout flower detailing and black stilettos as she looked loved up with navy suit-clad Frank, 43. Philip Schofield cut a suave figure in a dark gray suit which he teamed with a blue patterned tie and white shirt as he smiled on his way into the church, declaring after the service, "It was amazing and great fun. Really enjoyed it." Meanwhile Kat Geely, 44, put on a leggy display in a black and white polka dot dress as she arrived with her husband Patrick Keelty. BGT judge Alicia, 42, stood out from the crowd in a statement one-shouldered pink ruffle dress which showcased her long legs as she put on a united display with her husband Azuka Onanai. David Walliams looked smart in a light gray suit as he arrived with English model Keely Hazel, who wore a busty red and white dress. David said after the service. "It was very romantic and very fun. They've both got great sense of humors." Ant and Anne-Marie gave Stephen Mulhern a starring role at the nuptials, where he did a mini-comedy routine which had everyone in stitches, poking fun at Ant and his best man, December. A guest told Mail Online, "Stephen was hilarious. Nobody was expecting it, but he had everyone in rafts of laughter. It gave the wedding a real light-hearted feel." Earlier in the day, Reverend Canon Marion DeQuitt gestured to well-wishers as she stood under the stunning floral arch display at the venue just before celebrity guests began to arrive, as the earlier wet weather gave way to sunshine. It comes after last-minute preparations were made to the outside of the church this morning as rainy conditions threatened to put a dampener on the day. Flower walls and arches around the site in the sleepy village where the simple and beautiful nuptials are taking place were being perfected as the drizzle set in. Stunning hydrangeas and roses in pretty pastels and greens lined the walls of the venue as raincoat-clad staff made sure everything looked as it should. Guests were expected to start arriving for the wedding at midday, followed by Anne-Marie at 12:45 p.m. ahead of the service which begins at 1 p.m. Other members of staff were seen gathering outside the venue and shielding themselves from the torrential downpours with umbrellas as last-minute supplies arrived. Outside of the church this morning as rainy conditions threatened to put a dampener on the day. Flower walls and arches around the site in the sleepy village where the simple and beautiful nuptials are taking place were being perfected as the drizzle set in. Stunning hydrangeas and roses in pretty pastels and greens lined the walls of the venue as raincoat-clad staff made sure everything looked as it should. Guests were expected to start arriving for the wedding at midday, followed by Anne-Marie at 12:45 p.m. ahead of the service which begins at 1 p.m. Other members of staff were seen gathering outside the venue and shielding themselves from the torrential downpours with umbrellas as last-minute supplies arrived.